So, curiosity about the gym was something that I always had, and designing your own gym sessions, even before I qualified to train other people, was something that I used to try and do. But it was always the curiosity to learn, okay? And I was trained certain ways, and I used to question a lot of beliefs, but I don't think people question it anymore, okay? And I was lucky enough for people to go through some of this with me, and then you learn on your own as well, and you blend it all together, and you find this massive reason for doing stuff, okay, and it all clicks together. So what is your main goal with your gym session? Are you trying to put on a bit of muscle? Are you trying to get faster? Are you trying to develop a bit of speed and power in your off season? Are you just trying to stay injury free? Okay, have to take that into account. You have to understand why. Okay, your hand and foot positioning, if you understand your anatomy, you understand posture, you'll understand what the feet positioning will do to the rest of your body. What's it doing to your opposite shoulder? Why does the knee keep kicking in? And can you understand all of that? Okay, you'll see a lot of the stuff that I do is with the feet straight. There's a reason for it. Okay, then we have the pelvic tilt. Okay, so do you actually understand how much of your gym session are you spending in an anterior tilt with that arch in the back? How much are we training in each pelvic tilt? Okay, are we holding that neutral pelvis? Are we ever training with a posterior tilt? And can you play around with that? And can you use that within your sessions without having to do all this rehab stuff? Okay, so the anterior tilt all the time is leading to the tight lower back, maybe, and you might be doing it in your job. And then we have gravity and all these other things that we'll go through in a different video, but it's an important thing to take into account. Okay, then we have how much do we push, how much do we pull, how much do we rotate. So if you're a bodybuilder, you won't be wasting any sessions on rotating, but our average gap player or average hurler, rugby player, all these things, they never ever rotate when they're making their own gym sessions, or they might be given these gym sessions, and that's the reality of it. How often do we actually rotate? We rotate in our sport when we kick, when we throw, when we hit a sliotar, all these things. And then you have to be familiar with your force velocity curve. Okay, are we always hitting the top of the curve? Are we always hitting the bottom of the curve? Can we hit all of the above? Okay, but again, it comes back to our main goal. Okay, so are you doing a lot of max lifts? Okay, do you understand what pelvic tilt we're in? So are you in that anterior tilt all the time when we're doing those max lifts? If you think your max bench press and all these things. But again, it comes back to the posture then. Okay, if you have the tight lower back all the time, it's hindering you. You can't do those max lifts anymore. You can't develop your power. And then you're constantly going to the physio, and you're constantly spending all this time where you could be spending in your average gym session rehabbing. Okay, so how do we do it to keep ourselves injury free while not having to do this rehabbing and that? So we can blend it all in. Okay, but when we're doing that max lift, okay, when you hit failure, we have synergistic dominance. So synergistic dominance is basically when the body wants to go from point A to point B in the quickest suitable fashion. So if you're trying to lift the bar from point A to point B during your bench press or your squat, the knee kicking in is an example of this. So it's getting the bar to usually use a little bit of compensation, if you want to call it. And this develops loads and loads of imbalances. Okay, so those imbalances then, and you might have come across someone who's told you do a bit more reps and a few more reps on one side, and it's not really helping you. You're getting nowhere. Okay, and you always have this strength imbalance. You can't understand why one arm is weaker than the other, and so on. And then we take into the timeline: are we in our off season? Are you in season? Is it a time where you can put on a bit of mass? Do you need to put on a bit of mass? Maybe you want to look aesthetically better while developing a bit of power. And then it comes back to our reps and our ranges. Okay, if you understand your reps and your ranges, you can play around with lactate. You can play around with your volume. Are you hitting the same points in the curve all the time? Are you mixing it up? And when you get all of this and you can get really, really creative with it, that's when you really start to understand how to design your own gym sessions. But I think people have to start questioning the things we're taught in these possible short courses. I won't name them now, but you have to start questioning them and get out and practice it. Start designing it. How many types of a bench press can you name, and how much can you manipulate that exact exercise? So can you play around with the pelvic tilt? Can you play around with the foot positioning? Can you play around with the push and pull kind of element? Can you play around with all these exercises? So literally I would have sat down and wrote down as many types of one exercise as I possibly could think of and had a book of it. And then when I was going training people, I would play around with that, and you get a little bit creative on the spot as well, and you try things out and it'd work, and some things wouldn't, but you'd always get creative with it, and it would always work in the long run because I was using this pyramid to help people. And guess what? It works. So I hope this helps someone, and I hope this opens your mind.